Amazon FBA is dead. It's finished. There's no point in starting Amazon FBA this year. This is the sort of thing you're going to see littered all over your YouTube feed, and I can promise you it is absolute rubbish. If that was the case, why would over half of sellers on Amazon's platform be private label sellers like you and I? My name is Dylan Reed. I'm an Amazon FBA seller and course creator, and today I'm going to be running you through a complete step-by-step checklist for Amazon FBA for this year. I'm also going to be running a pretty cool giveaway in this video. So all you need to do is comment below of why you would like to start Amazon FBA. Once we hit 20 comments, I'm going to be randomly selecting one person to have a one-to-one strategy call with myself. When we hit 50 comments, I'm going to be giving away a free scholarship to the Elite Academy, which is my mentorship course. So let's get up to that 50 comment mark, guys, as quick as we can. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Right guys, firstly, thank you for tuning in. Now, like I mentioned in the introduction to this video, this is going to be a step-by-step guide, but we're going to create it in the form of a checklist. Now, from the hundreds of students that I work with on a monthly basis, we have found that a checklist seems to be a little bit easier for people to follow. So I was going to create quite a long-winded hour-and-a-half video for you guys of all the ins and outs of why Amazon FBA is such a great opportunity, and etc., etc. But I feel like a shorter 20-minute video getting straight to the point with a checklist for you to tick off yourself is going to be a more effective video for you guys. So that's what I'm going to deliver to you today. So get a pen and paper, notepad, and a cup of coffee. Make note of what I'm talking about in this video. It's going to be very, very useful for you when you start your FBA business. Now, what I would say, just a quick point to begin with, over the last 5 years of mentoring thousands of students selling on Amazon FBA, what I've noticed is sort of a reoccurring theme, and that is those people are very, very motivated and very driven. And I always ask them to remind themselves why they're starting. One of the biggest drop-offs for members and for people in general is they just lose interest, right? So they get really excited, they see the opportunity, and then it fizzles out. So what I would say to you guys today, really think to yourself, why are you starting this venture? Is it for financial freedom? Is it to have more time flexibility, to be able to quit your job, to be able to travel? Whatever it is, write it down right now when you're this passionate about moving forward, and refer back to it when you ever have a wobble. So we're going to work through these pointers one by one for you to write down, and I'm going to be elaborating on each of the points a little bit to give you some clarity and some information on the points. Now, the first thing that I would do when you've decided to move forward with your FBA business is to create a limited company. Now, the reason I suggest creating a limited company over some of the other options is it tends to be more tax effective, and it's the smarter way of doing so. Now, a lot of people are a little bit iffy, it seems a big thing to set up a limited company, but you can use websites such as Rapid Formations or the government website and set it up really in about 30 minutes, and it isn't a big deal. Now, you're obviously going to have to decide on a company name. Now, the company name is important, but it isn't as important as your brand name that you'll have affixed to your product. But that being said, it still needs to be professional and it needs to sound good, right? It doesn't necessarily need to be linked to the product. So there's lots of company name creators online that you can Google and have some ideas for your company name, but that would be where I start. Next would be to open a business bank account. Now, this will be the bank account that is attached to your Amazon sellers account. Different if you have a personal Amazon account, and it's going to be used for your deposits to be made from your FBA sales into your bank. Now, you'll need this setup to create your Amazon sellers account, so I would do this right from the offset. Now, I would recommend a few banks, but top of the list is probably Starling Bank. They've got no monthly fees, and they've got lots of other perks from using them for your FBA business. I'll put a link below for you guys to check them out. Now, once you've got all of that set up, you need to start thinking about product research. Now, in order to conduct product research, you're going to need some software. There's a few big players in the market. My suggestion would be to use Helium 10. Helium 10 is a product research and software company, mainly focusing around Amazon FBA, although they do venture out a little bit into other areas. And you can use it to conduct product research and find hot products to sell on Amazon. Now, there's a few different plans. I would opt for the Platinum plan. You can usually get away with using this for just a couple of months, so it's not sort of a yearly, monthly recurring fee every month for a year. You can use it just for 1 or 2 months. I've also got a discount code below for you guys to get a discount on your Helium 10 purchase, but you will need software to get started. And I can say with confidence that once you actually delve into your Helium 10 software that we'll talk about later, it'll really get you excited because you're going to be seeing how products are performing, how people like you and I, small businesses, are generating really substantial amounts of revenue through products selling on Amazon. Now, once you've got your Helium 10 software, you're going to be able to delve into your product research. Now, this can be the most daunting stage, and it's certainly the most time-consuming, but I like to put an exciting spin on it, right? This is an exciting thing. You've got to try to enjoy the process, although some parts will be more difficult than others. But when you use Helium 10, there's really two pieces of or two tools that they've got within their software that you're going to want to really become accustomed to and learn how to use their filters. And those two tools are X-Ray and Black Box. Now, X-Ray is more of a manual tool. You can go in using their plugin on your Google Chrome, and you're able to manually browse products on Amazon and see how much revenue they're doing per month, how many sales units they sell per month, the average reviews, for example, their sales history, lots of information that really is useful when you're making your decision to launch a product. Now, the other tool they've got, which is a bit more automated, is called Black Box. Now, this essentially is imagine a fisherman throwing out a net. You've got specific parameters of what you want to catch, and you're using a certain type of net to catch certain fish. It's the same with Black Box. You're using some of their filters to find exact products that fit within the parameters you set. And you click a button, and Amazon will come back with lots of different ideas for you to start to research. Now, these might not necessarily be the ones, but these ideas can lead to further ideas, they can spark your imagination, and it really gets you started with the process. I like to talk about criteria when you're doing your research. So the next step would be to really consider these specific criteria, which I've mentioned for many years. Now, although this isn't super stringent, it would be wrong for me to say you have to stick within these parameters or you will fail. But it's a good rule of thumb and a good sort of idea, a blueprint for you to really narrow down and find the sort of products that you are likely to be successful when selling on Amazon. The first filter you're going to want to think about is the monthly revenue. So, we want products that are in demand. So we don't want to be looking at products that are generating £200 a month. I suggest a minimum of £3,500 to £4,000 per month in revenue for the products that you're considering launching. Now, in addition to that, you can also set the monthly sales. Now, I would set this at about 200 to 230 monthly sales. You can play with these figures to get different products to generate, but that would be my recommendation for the amount of sales. They do tie hand in hand, revenue and sales. Now, the price point's important. People who shop on Amazon generally are ready to purchase. They're browsing to buy something there and then. And by setting your price within a specific range, it makes it more likely for those ready to purchase customers to buy your product. Now, I would generally go between the sort of £20 and £25 mark as a minimum. Now, that being said, it's absolutely feasible to launch a product that it's selling for £10 if the margin's there and the volume's there. But typically, I would not go below the £20 to £25 mark for a product to ensure your margins are high. Now, moving on to profit margin, obviously very important. You could have a listing that's generating £50,000 a month, but if there's no profit there, it's not a viable idea. So we need to consider profit. Now, a minimum margin, I would say around 30%, 25 to 30% is the sort of margin you want to be working on. Now, in order to calculate your profit margin, you're going to need to factor in lots of different things. There's a free FBA calculator on Amazon's website for you to do those calculations quite easily and see if there's potential with a product. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. Now, weight is important as well. So I generally like to suggest to my members to not really launch a product over the sort of 1 to 1.5 kilo mark. The lighter and smaller, the better, right? It means your FBA fees, which is your fulfillment fees for Amazon doing the storing, shipping the items to customers, your fees are reduced and your margin as such is increased. So try and keep it size-wise within a shoebox, and about 1.5 kilos, no more. Now, something that I had a podcast with Jungle Scout a few years ago, looking at spread of revenue. So what that means is when you're using tools like X-Ray and Black Box, you're looking at these niches and these categories, there needs to be a bit of a spread of revenue. Now, that just means, 4 or 5 sellers who are all generating this consistent number of £3,000 to £4,000 a month. So you can see that multiple sellers are performing within a niche. It's not heavily dominated by one particular product, and even a big brand being that main product. We like to avoid niches that are brand dominated as well. For example, socks, if it's dominated by Nike, Adidas and Puma, you just wouldn't go near it. Now, we talk a lot about seasonality in the training and on my YouTube channel. Now, some people launch seasonal products, that's fine. My product is pretty seasonal and it potentially will only be something I'd sell at certain times of the year. I would suggest trying to find products that sell all year round, so evergreen products. Now, a bad example of a seasonal product would be a Christmas tree. They're only going to sell in December. So you can use Helium 10's sales graph to have a look at how sales run throughout the year, when they spike, or if they're fairly consistent throughout the year. Another thing to consider is your product restricted? Is it a gated category? Now, you can check this within Seller Central. You may have created your Seller Central account at this point. Now you've got your business set up and your company, etc. But I would definitely do research into the product. You can reach out to specialist people, freelancers, to check these items for you to make sure that you're not going for a particular product that you're not allowed to sell on the platform. Now, once you start to see a theme of products that are fitting these criteria, and you're seeing real potential in them, you're going to need to start to think outside the box. Now, the days of being able to just throw a product up on Amazon with a poor listing with no real value added for the customer, they're gone. And you really need to think about differentiating and adding value is something that I talk about a lot. How can we improve, make adjustments and changes to the products that are existing on Amazon to make them better? Now you're thinking, well, how am I supposed to think about this? Well, and have ideas. Well, one way is to have a look at the competition's products, read their reviews, have a look at what people are complaining about, and see if you can make any amendments and you can address those issues. And then once they're fixed, you can highlight them in your listing to stand out from the competition. Now, as well as that, obviously you need a very high quality product as well. Now, next, branding. And if you want to potentially create a logo as well, you're going to need to think of a brand name for your product at the stage when you've selected one. Now, the brand name is important. It needs to tie in directly with the product. It needs to relate and be specific for the type of product you're launching. So have a think about brand names. Again, there are websites that help you generate brand names, but really have a think about the type of product that you're selling and is it a suitable fitting name for that product? And again, your company ethos, your mission statement, they're all going to be surrounding that brand. Is it something that stands out? Again, there is specialist help for branding online. Now, once you've got all this done, you're thinking, wow, I'm making some progress here. This is step by step. You've got all the way to this point. It might have taken you a few weeks. It might have taken you a month. You're going to start to need to reach out to suppliers. Now, we use a website called Alibaba. They host lots of different suppliers, and you can have a look at different products. For example, ones that you have highlighted as products of interest, and you can see how much they cost to purchase wholesale value. So when you're buying them from your supplier in bulk, you will benefit massively from economies of scale. So buying in large numbers rather than 1 or 2. So negotiate with your suppliers, reach out to 2 or 3 suppliers, more ideally 5 or 6, and really get an idea for the sort of margin that you're going to be looking at for the product. Now, when it comes to the actual shipping of the product, once you've decided on your minimum order quantity, what you're purchasing, I would say usually about 2 to 3 months of stock based on what you're seeing as the monthly sales on the front end from your research. but you're going to need to consider shipping. Now, shipping prices have gone up since COVID, but they've started to go back down. I would suggest using a freight forwarder. They're a professional company who will basically ensure your goods are delivered from A to B, which is from the supplier's warehouse, freight on board directly to an FBA fulfillment center for you to start your FBA business. Now, freight forwarders have got competitive prices. I'll put some below that you can reach out to. You can also ask your supplier if they offer any shipping options. Make sure if you do that they are aware they need to declare the full amount for the goods and that you're both very, very clear and you have everything in writing. Now, as I mentioned earlier, next, and you might have done this, maybe the last step as well, is purchase 2 or 3 products from competitors and sample your product. So at this stage, we haven't ordered yet, right? We're just considering all these things. You now need to think about sampling the product from your supplier. Rigorously put it through some testing, use it yourself for at least a week or 2, give it to some friends, get an idea of, out of the 3 suppliers, who is the best, who is the supplier that you want to pursue and start your business relationship with. And you can also purchase your competitors' products and start to read their reviews, see if it's consistent with what you're seeing physically, tangible product in front of you. Are you able to make improvements from what you're seeing yourself? It's a very useful way to get some ideas for adding value and differentiating. Now, anything you see, you can translate back over to your supplier and they will be able to tell you if they can accommodate any changes or improvements to make your product better. Once you've got all of these things done, you're going to want to have a final, ideally a CAD/CAM image of the product from the supplier. They're going to have sent you out a final sample with all the final specifications that have been completed based on your changes, and make sure you're happy with it before you move forward and place the order. Now, when you do place the order, I do typically suggest to try and negotiate with the supplier to put a 30% deposit down and pay the remaining 70% when the goods are manufactured fully. Now, in this interim period, but when your goods are being manufactured, you can set up your Amazon sellers account, and you can actually have done that right at the beginning once your business is set up. It's up to you. You can start to familiarize yourself with the platform and how to use it, its functionality. But the reason that I gave you the instructions for the business company setup at the beginning and the company name is you really don't want to be changing things at a later date. Get it done at the beginning, be sure about it, so that at a later stage, when you're setting up your seller's account, it can mess things up when you start to change really important details about the business. Now, when you set up your Amazon seller's account, you are going to need to create your product listing. Now, in order to do this, you're going to need a barcode. Now, I don't want to overcomplicate this, but essentially you can go onto a website called GS1 UK and purchase a GTIN number, which think about that as a barcode. Now, once you've purchased that number, that will be assigned to your product. You'll have a barcode that's specifically for that product that you can have your supplier stick onto all of them. So when you're creating your product listing, they're going to require this GTIN number that you've just got yourself from GS1 UK. You put it in as part of the listing creation process. Now, once that's done, you can download your barcodes, and at a later date, you'll send them to your supplier to have them applied to every single product that you've got being shipped into FBA. These are referred to as FN SKUs. Now, when it comes to generating your product listing, you're going to see lots of different tabs and lots of information. A lot of it won't be relevant, and some of them won't have that little star next to them, which means they're not required. For example, you may be selling a product that doesn't have a battery, but Amazon is asking you for information on the battery that you're putting in the product, which is obviously non-applicable. So use your common sense with that. But some of the really important ones that I want to talk about is your images. At this stage, you'll need to have your images created. I would suggest using a freelancer on Fiverr, having some high quality infographics, creative shots, white back shots of the product, get some inspiration from your competitors, but images will need to be utilized in order to get the listing created. Now, as well as that, you're going to need to create a title for your listing. Now, here we need to talk about keyword research. Now, keyword research is something that you need to do at this stage or earlier for you to ascertain what are your converting keywords, right? What are the keywords that are likely going to be converting to sales for you? Highly relevant, high volume keywords or search terms that you can pepper through your listing, including in the title. Now, keywords are used by customers and search terms. If I type in, men's 2-pack of socks or 2 pairs of socks for men, those are search terms and keywords that need to link up to your listing. So people who are selling that type of product would include those keywords in their listing to index for that search term on the front end from the customer. So I would suggest using Helium 10 again, using their tool Magnet. And you can type in your main keyword into Magnet, and it's going to give you lots of ideas for other keywords that you can filter through, work out if they're relevant based on search volume and just from what you see, and whether or not to include them in your listing product description, features and details, and title, which will all need to be written for your listing to be saved and finished. As well as that, keywords will go into the back-end search terms. You won't put them in as a full search term, you'll put them in as individual words, and they're very important to, again, help you index for people searching for your product. Something else you can use is a tool called Cerebro on Helium 10. Now, Cerebro is a reverse ASIN. Now, I don't want to confuse you, but basically, you find a product on Amazon that's a bestseller for what you're looking to sell, pull the ASIN, which is a specific number that you can take from a listing, put it into Cerebro, and it will tell you what all of the keywords that listing is using in their back end. So something to think about. Now, before your goods are shipped, during the process of them being manufactured, or even before, you're going to need to talk to your supplier about packaging. Now, a supplier can usually provide good quality packaging for the items that they're shipping. You may want to outsource this to another supplier who specializes in packaging, but in most instances, your supplier will be able to facilitate. Now, packaging is important. It improves and increases that perceived value when you get something. Imagine an iPhone. If it came in just a poly bag, you'd think, well, this is fake. You want to have good quality packaging. You can have infographics, information, images on the packaging. It depends how extravagant you want to go. You don't want to push the boat out too far. You don't want to really eat into your margin too much with your packaging, but it needs to be good. Now, something else we want to talk about at this stage is you're going to need to be thinking about reviews. Now, something that I suggest in my training is creating high quality product inserts. Now, product inserts are little cards that go in with your product, so when a customer purchases them, opens up the product, they see a little thank you card for purchasing, highlight you're a small business, and that it's very helpful for you to have feedback from customers in the form of reviews to help you grow as a business. And it really does help, really give that customer that little bit of a push to take their time to go onto your listing and write a review. So I would suggest using product inserts, and you can have them made using freelancers. Again, on Fiverr, you see me mentioning Fiverr a lot. Fiverr, they've got a very broad spectrum of specialists in lots of different areas. So all the things I'm talking about, you are able to outsource some things to them. Now, when you're getting to the point where your product is almost finished, right, your supplier has contacted you, you're going to need to send them the barcodes. Now, as I mentioned to you, once the listing has been completed, you're going to be able to download your barcode from your Manage Inventory page. Now, you can see this right next to your Edit button next to your listing. There's a little drop down arrow where you can download your barcode. It's also referred to as an FNSKU. This will be identical for all of those products that you're selling. Now, if you were to create another listing with a different product, you'd have a different FNSKU or barcode. So get those printed off and send them over to your supplier to apply them onto each of your individual products. When the supplier sends them into FBA, they're going to be scanning these barcodes one by one. Let's say, for example, you send in 300 units, they'll scan all 300, and that will be what gets checked into your inventory. Now, I would also consider an inspection at this stage. Now, an inspection is done to ensure quality, basically. Peace of mind for you that before the product leaves China, it's had an independent, impartial inspection by an independent professional company. Now, there's lots on the market. I'll include some below. You can comment below if you've got any ideas for this. And really, I would suggest this. You can also link an inspection with your order on Alibaba. It's called Ali Inspection Services. And again, with your trade assurance, you'll have both of those things attached to your order. Now, we're getting to the final stages. You've done all of this work. It's taken you some time. You are about to launch your FBA business. And it's come to the point where you need to create your shipping plan. The goods are ready. They're ready to go in. They're still in China at this stage. They've been expected. Everything's gone well. Now, when your listing is created, you can click the button on your listing to replenish your inventory. Now, this means send in inventory to Amazon FBA. Now, when you do that, they'll ask you for some information. For example, how many boxes you're sending in, how many units you're sending in, what's the weight of the boxes, what's the dimensions of the boxes, and they will then give you packaging labels. Now these are labels that go on the exterior of your big box that you're sending in. So let's say you're sending in 5 boxes with 100 each in there. You're going to have 5 exterior carton labels to send over to the supplier to apply to your cartons. Now these again, when they're shipped into FBA, this is going to be telling the freight forwarder where they're being delivered to. Now, once this is done, your units are going to be checked into Amazon FBA and you're ready to get started with your launch strategy. So I hope you guys found that checklist useful. Again, I mentioned to you the feedback I'm getting from people who are, beginners looking to start is it's really helpful to have this sort of walkthrough. So I wanted to show that to you guys. I hope you found it useful. Please like, comment, and subscribe. It really does help me out. And remember, the competition is going to be running and we need to hit that comment number 20, 50, and I may even add something else if we hit 100 for all those people who've got this far. Thank you very much. See you in the next one.